live, folks. We had some technical difficulties.
Billy's a
Billy Watson
genius.
joined. Yeah, not really. It's just like a couple of logins. Joined today, Billy Watson here by Mark Molina and Kevin Narro, all the way across the country. He's in Michigan. Kevin, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
A whole lot of nothing, to be honest with you. It's very peace and quiet up here, and very, very different from the valley. I know we've been spoiled with some pretty good temperatures out here in the thumb area, and it's a lot of people here have been really blessed to kind of just uh, be away from the whole virus deal. It's a completely different world up here. I know back at home it's a real hot spot, and over here everyone's kind of already gone through that whole deal back in March and in April. And I think today they just had their 51st case, but since the month of March. So it's all gone here. I mean, for the most part, everyone's back to normal, and everyone's real safe. And it also helps that everyone's so far apart from each other. Everything's woods out here. And everyone here is social distancing experts.
Sweet. Well, Mark, we were talking a little before the show started a little bit about what's going on with the UIL. Let's get things going with that. They just released a statement today about the updated guidelines with the strength and conditioning programs. A lot of stuff we had to talk about. What's your take on some of the stuff they updated with?
Well, I mean, me personally, I think a lot of schools in the UIL have really done. I think they've really done their homework and they've worked diligently. But the fact that I think it is still a little bit surprising, and some people might agree with me that they're still allowing strength and conditioning to move forward. And I know they're planning on actually giving access to locker rooms on starting July 13th, but as long as schools have a mitigated plan to do so, and as long as schools have that plan in place, it's a good one, and that it's posted on their website. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen from these new guidelines that have come out. Not much has really changed, although from those guidelines. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. And just yeah, I mean, they're still moving forward with that. The UIL still plans on going forward with sports. So I think that just shows their commitment to that today with the release of these new guidelines. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how schools react. We'll see what schools continue to do. But I know in our neck of the woods in the valley, I know most schools, even the last couple that were still conducting these strength and conditioning meetings, actually stopped a couple of weeks ago or last week. So that's we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens July 13th. I think that looks like another target date where they want to come out. But yeah, from what I've seen, the access to locker rooms, that's a really big deal and a jarring thing that's happened. So I mean, I don't know I don't know how schools here are gonna react, or I don't know if they're gonna bring them back or if they're gonna tread lightly with caution. But I know that there's still a really big commitment to bringing back sports. So
Yeah, that's definitely the big one in the latest guidelines is opening up the locker rooms and allowing players to be a little bit more physical. They're allowing them to be without their face mask when they're actively exercising. I actually read a couple articles about Lubbock. Some high schools are still not going to open up their locker rooms, and that's actually kind of smart. UIL is giving it to the discretion of the schools whether or not they want to open it, but they're saying they want to allow that. And it's good that they've done that, because I know St. Joseph and Harlingen, they were for the longest time trying to stay and keep doing their strength and conditioning programs. And they did for a while. And St. Joe actually released a statement of Coach Tino did, saying that, hey, we're doing some good stuff over here. We're getting everything sanitized. We're doing temperature checks. And unfortunately, I think it was the UIL state or the state that they said to shut it down because the virus is getting really bad. Then they flipped the switch, and now you got coming up next Monday, and they're saying, "Hey, open up the locker room." So it'll be interesting to see what they do, and especially in the next few days, because it's like Kevin said, he saw this coming in May, that if it's around July, middle of July, and it's still like this, it's going to be kind of weird. Kevin, can you reiterate on that? I know you had a little spiel about just how close it's getting now, especially it's July, and then August 3rd is coming up rather pretty fast. And you gotta unmute yourself, bud. There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Back in May when we were having these shows, I was asking coaches when is that red flag going to be as far as when and if the season can be played. And for me personally, this is exactly what I feared, that we're going to be in the second week of July and we're still in square one. And I personally think that we should just wait out the month of July. I think this is our last grasp if we're wanting to have some kind of sports in the fall. Is this month, the month of July, really needs to be shut down, and there really shouldn't be any sports of any kind. Because, like I said, back in May, we were hoping, well, in June, we'll be able to maybe work out just a little bit and have something. It was a nice try. It was a nice attempt, that June 8th deal on doing the strength and conditioning. But really, we just delayed the inevitable with those strength and conditionings, with some of these kids testing positive and then seeing everything get shut down. I think, like I said, I think it was a good effort. It was a nice try. And then we kind of saw what happened there. And from there on, I felt that everything else since that date, we should have just shut down, or we should shut down. I'm a little shocked that we're going to have locker rooms open because, it's kind of, you're asking to take one step forward and 3 steps back with locker rooms, because you would think that this wouldn't happen until, maybe a year from now or months from now. We'll talk about locker rooms because we're talking about playing a sport, and you're going to want to open locker rooms when there is absolutely no social distancing in the locker room. I mean, I don't see any logic in that. Maybe at the end of July, maybe look to open strength and conditioning again, but to open locker rooms and maybe kind of just trying it all over again so soon, I think I really don't agree with that. But as far as that goes, I think July should be shut down from travel ball to 7-on-7 to everything. Just needs to be shut down in the month of July if we want to start, say, in maybe October. I think the more we continue to try and open these things up in July, only pushes it back even more. I believe if we would have stopped everything in June when everything first got stopped with the strength and conditioning, let July ride out, let the half a month of June ride out, maybe we can start in September and use that month of August to start maybe preparing for a season. But I'm shocked. This is news to me, the whole locker room deal. I don't see any reason behind it. And what I'm worried about is up here, there's a lot of 8-man football. For Texas terms, we would be a lot of 2A, 1A schools in this area. They're not planning on playing sports. One of my cousins works for a radio station up here that covers the high school sports. They're not planning on it. And in Michigan, in this area, they're months, leaps and bounds ahead of us when it comes to controlling this virus. And I'm just sitting here like, man, if these guys are not planning on playing sports with such small communities, and they've already flattened that curve, and what the heck are we doing? So it's just worrisome. It's worrisome for me. And a lot of the kids out here, I'm in the boonies right now. For an educational standpoint, a lot of these kids don't have Wi-Fi. A lot of these kids don't have internet. They live miles and miles away from the school. So for them just to handle transportation and getting these kids to school for step one is going to be a challenge. And in this area, they don't have, the resources we have in the Valley. Deckerville High School, where my uncle lives, it's pre-K through 12, one school altogether, 8-man football, and they have maybe about 5 school buses. Carsonville, another place where my other cousin lives, they have maybe about 5 to 6 school buses, a little bit of a bigger community. Still, it would be like a 2A or 1A back at home. So the challenge is, getting these kids to school. How are they going to do it? And then you talk about the winter months where it's ice and snow more often than not up here. And, it's already a challenge to get those kids to school then. So, I think, it's really, really difficult to see sports now being played at home because now I'm kind of seeing what it's like up here. And, like I said, these guys are, they've done a good job on handling this virus, these people, the people up here, and they're not planning on having sports. And we're on the complete opposite end back at home. So, but yeah, that's just my opinion on it. That whole locker room deal is new to me, and I think it's something that should not be done. I think the month of July should really just be put on pause. What's one more month, right? And put August on pause, and then hopefully get things going in September. But it's worrisome.
Yeah, and
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I mean, when we started, when we went on the air, I want to kind of lay out what's been going on. But as far as some of the rhetoric that the UIL has been putting out there, just it is worrisome. From a standpoint of a human, somebody not talking about being middle of the road here, but like from my point of view, it is worrisome because the UIL is speaking like they want full stands, and whenever they did lift the ban on the Friday night live streaming, that was interesting to me, and I thought they were taking steps forward. But just some of the things that they said about keeping Friday night sacred, and not wanting to change anything, and not wanting to give in to COVID, and not wanting to let it change a lot. But the fact of the matter is, a lot has changed, and the way people are going about their daily lives, that has changed. And I commend the UIL for wanting to get back to normalcy, and I commend them for taking these leaps to ensure that people who are more vulnerable, vis-a-vis older people, the ill, people with not strong immune systems. I really appreciate what they're doing, and making sure that those people can enjoy sports. But wishing that we have full stands and coming back in full force, I don't know if that is really the best idea for anybody. Right now, until we know that there is like a cure and stuff like that, I think it's a risk. But like I said, that's just one man's opinion here. I know there's a lot of people and coaches who are going to go on the other side and be like, schools and stuff are a safe haven for kids, keeps kids out of trouble. Home life isn't the best for some of these kids, and I completely agree with them, and that's something that you got to really take into consideration. But right now, the way we're treading and opening up more when it comes to schools and sports, I don't think that's the best idea. I don't think opening locker rooms is the best idea. If you want to have these guidelines, fine. If you want to still continue to let schools make their own guidelines, as long as they're doing them safe and strict, then that's fine also. But I don't know about like the locker room thing. That's kind of worrisome to me. But on the other end, schools have done a really good job. Harlingen was doing a really great job. We talk about St. Joseph. Harlingen was checking temperatures before kids got out of cars. So some of these schools for everybody. So I know that these schools are doing are have this kid safety in mind. But even with that, I personally wouldn't want to risk it, because I think there's a lot more at stake here than starting on time and keeping Friday night sacred.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that there's just so many moving parts still. Even college football and the NFL, they're still trying to get their thing going. NBA's on the brink of getting their startup back on. I mean, but there's players getting tested positive. Like there's 4. Last I checked, 4 Brooklyn Nets players were tested positive. That's Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan, and then Tayshaun Prince. I think not one of the other players. And then there's still a lot of moving things. They're trying to.
That's one thing. That's one thing too. That's alarming about high school sports is that I think we're going to learn a lot we're learning a lot right now, like from baseball and from the NBA, is that we're seeing how many loopholes, not loopholes, but how many hurdles there are. With baseball, you're seeing teams not wanting to go to practice until they get test results. They feel that they're not getting the test results back in time. Because there's so many people that need to be tested. They're just in a line waiting to get those results back. And so what if a player tests positive, then they have to go into quarantine, and there's just way too many hurdles, especially for high school, because obviously we don't have all the resources that Major League Baseball or the NFL or the NBA has. How are we going to go about it there with these kids? Are they going to constantly having to get tested? How soon can we get the results? And you're talking about a game Friday night. Do the kids get tested that Saturday morning? Do they get tested on Monday? How soon do they get the results back? And then when they get the results back, it's going to be Thursday. your starting quarterback it tests positive, then what? As far as the coach does, when you look at it from a football standpoint.
Yeah, just so many things. Did you see this, Kevin, the other day that Garrett Cole they were having their intra-squad practice. He struck out a batter and they threw the ball around and he got a ball back and it wasn't that same ball. And he was like, I don't want this ball because I want that ball. But with all the guidelines, they say there's too many hands on it. They have to throw it out. They can't use it anymore. So that's what they did. First pitch on the batter, it was a home run.
Yeah, that could be one of two things. Sometimes pitchers naturally just they get the ball or grip it, and they don't like the way it feels. They'll ask for another one. That's not uncommon. But I know a rule is where if the ball gets touched more than a couple times, they're going to switch it out. So that's probably what it was. If the ball gets thrown around a couple times, get touched by multiple players, they'll throw that ball out and get a new one. Along with no spitting. Spitting's not allowed. Handshakes, hugs, none of those things are going to be allowed this year. Yeah, so it's and that's because we're talking about professional sports. Yeah. But especially for something like football, and then Mark, you mentioned about the fans. The more I think about it, is I think there should just be no fans at all. Period. If there is going to be football, and because you can slice it up and say, well, we can put 20 fans per section. But then you start thinking, well, one, how are you going to divide those tickets and who gets them? Immediate family or open sale is problem one. Problem two is that obviously Lyford's football field is not like Bobby Lackey. The capacity is another issue where, then you'd have to really limit down your capacity with smaller schools like Santa Rosa and Lyford. And so I think there's just way too many hurdles, but again, back to what we were talking about earlier, I think the month of July everyone just needs to stay home, and there should be no sports of any kind, at least this month.
And my thing is, you talk about bringing fans in, bringing with guidelines, but I mean, I think we know all too well that we've seen people. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. You give them, and you saw it a lot with the soft reopening that we did in June. We weren't open for a couple of weeks, and then numbers soared because everywhere we went, people weren't abiding by these simple guidelines that weren't mandatory. If stuff's not mandatory, people take liberties with it, and they'll be like, "Oh, not everybody has to wear a mask. Let's not wear a mask at all." And people just like if it was over. So like I've seen people, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, and that's what I worry that if we do put in guidelines to have fans, that's what's going to happen. And I agree with you. If we're going to have any kind of sports, which would be, I mean, we're all hoping that, but if we do, there shouldn't be any fans. Like I think fans would be out of the question because that doesn't help anybody.
And there shouldn't be any fans, and if there is going to be fans, like I said, you can probably divide it into sections, and you have to wear a mask. And what's irritating is I've seen it around so many times where people put their nose over their shirt over their face. It's like, no, you need a mask.
Yeah.
That's not gonna fly. You have to wear a mask upon entry, and but I mean, my goodness, there's just so many hurdles, and Dusty Baker on Twitter, he tweeted out that if baseball is having so many issues right now with testing and players testing positive, how in the heck is the NFL going to get going? Completely different sport. So I think, like I said, we're learning and we're going to continue to learn from the NBA and from Major League Baseball as far as how they're handling the testing and the isolation. And I think if and when the NFL does start, I think they're going to have a good idea on what to do and what not to do. Hopefully we'll be the same when we get to sports. We'll have learned and seen, what to do and what not to do when it comes to these other sports.
For sure.
Good stuff on that, guys. Let's switch topics a little bit. Let's talk about our ongoing brackets that we have so far with basketball and soccer. Let me share my screen so that everyone can see the basketball bracket. This is what we have so far for the basketball bracket. The first round is finishing up tomorrow with the Santa Rosa and Dickey Road matchup at the bottom here. We'll go down the list. Santa Rosa topped up. Who was it over here? This was Porter and Santa Rosa. Porter actually won that one. There was a lot of fans voting in that one. I think that one got about 400 votes total. So that was a good showing on that side. So we appreciate all the fans voting on there. Harlingen South topped Sandy Central. This one was really interesting. Santa Maria and Los Fresnos both in the same year made it to the regional tournament, and both teams could have won their games respectively. But it's just so tough when you get up there, especially today. Once you get up to the San Antonio and Austin area, there's teams that are just honestly that are better, and both teams had really severe years, especially Los Fresnos being one of the top teams in the valley this year. Santa Maria topped that in the vote. It was like a 70% vote on Facebook that gave the Cougars that win, so they're in the second round. Santa Rosa with Leo Mata, Matt Garcia, and AB. That year, Santa Rosa topped the Vela squad. The state Vela team from 15-16 with Ryan Garza and Alex a couple years ago from Weslaco. The interesting thing here is I'm tallying up the votes right now for this matchup. San Perlita and a really good Edinburgh team from 10-11. It's really close. I'm at decimals right now, and I'm trying to throw this up in the air for a revote. I don't want to do that, but I'm going to continue to try to see how that stacks up. But right now, it's really close, and I'm trying to figure that out. Harlingen's on the verge of winning. That poll, I think, jumped up shortly ago. And then, like I said, Santa Rosa 17-18 is wrapping up again right now. That'll wrap up tomorrow against Rowe. That was a really good year for Rowe. I think that was the year they lost only 2 games. They made it to area. And then, obviously, you got Santa Rosa in this area or the region quarters as well. So that's how the bracket is stacking up for basketball. We didn't run a basketball matchup today because we want the first round to finish. Same thing with the bracket for soccer. That's a couple games behind. So this is the right side right here. We got the state champions, Sherryland Rattlers, state champion Hidalgo, and then Porter, all followed by state champion Rivera from 14-15 on the winner side of this side. Let me go ahead and explain really quick the reasoning for the placement in case we didn't do this a while ago. We placed the state champions in their own spot. We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then once we got all those state champions in, which were 7 of them, that's where we randomly placed every single state tournament qualifier, ranging back from the beginning of time since soccer was mandated by the UAL, which was like the 82 season, I think, and that was Hannah that made their inaugural appearance from the Valley. So they made it right there. The red circles indicate who won that play-in. And then that matchup obviously played the winner up top. So these are your 4 winners right here, Sherryland, Hidalgo, Porter, and Rivera, those specific years. We're on this side right now. We're about halfway done. And I think the matchup we're at right now, we just posted today, was Porter and Hannah. Porter, this year, I looked it up. That was the crazy year that Porter went to the state championship and won 10-9 in the shootout. Wow. So that was insane. Watch the highlights on that. That was just insane. And you got Hannah on the bottom end of that, and Hannah lost in the state championship. I want to say it was a shootout as well, but they lost in the state championship. Just going down the list as well, Lopez, Hannah, and then followed up by Lopez and Porter. A lot of Brownsville schools, honestly, I think they call Brownsville the soccer city. So it's a really good reasoning behind Brownsville being really involved in this soccer bracket. We're on the talks of releasing a same thing similar to here, where everyone who's watching, you'll be able to fill it out and kind of like your NCAA tournament, fill it out, and then winner will obviously get recognized for if they get this bracket filled out correctly. So that's going down right now. Continue to vote, fans. The polls are 48 hours. Click on your team, support your team, share the link, follow us on all our social media. And that's that. That's going to wrap up that session. Next thing on topic, guys, this isn't going to be the begging point or the whole I'm going to Texas Tech thing, but Patrick Mahomes just signed probably the biggest deal in U.S. sports history, a 10-year, $503 million deal. What are your thoughts on that? incredible.
That's potentially what it could be worth. I think right now it's somewhere in the range of 40 million a year, but I think potentially when it's all said and done, it can be he could have made that much if to the max extent. But there's a whole lot of money guaranteed, and that is the richest deal in sports history in the U.S. So it's a major blockbuster deal. I mean, it just goes to show, how much money is invested in football, just how much of a juggernaut it is. So I mean, but yeah, man, I mean, you can't. There's really no way of arguing against it, though. Like I think he's worth every penny. And yes, Billy, but you do go to Texas Tech, so you must be really happy. It's your boy. It's your boy there.
Hey, I didn't get to see him play, so I don't have all the fame and glory I wish I thought I had. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that? You're a Dak fan. Obviously, Dak was trying to get those numbers, but he didn't. And but Mahomes certainly deserved it. He had the ring in his third year in the league. And what are your overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's fitting, and it's crazy because I was fearful of it because I'm like, okay, Dak's sitting back there and waiting to say, okay, let's see what Mahomes gets. Maybe I can either top that or match it. And I'm like, no, you don't, Dak. Like Patrick Mahomes could walk into the KC front office with a blank check, and that boy can fill it out, and whatever he wants, he's gonna get. I'm like, but not you, Dak. I mean, this guy is a special breed, and I think he's well deserving of it. I think I saw a tweet that coming out of high school, he was a 2-star recruit, and the guy, went on to Texas Tech, won an MVP, won a Super Bowl. So it's just crazy though on how much money he's going to be making. It's good for him, but it's also hypocritical to bash on Garrett Cole for taking all that money and going to the Yankees. But that's a completely different story. But I think it's awesome because we're seeing the next potentially Tom Brady of this next generation, and somewhere down the line, we're going to be talking about Mahomes, winning a couple more Super Bowls for Kansas City. But I think it's awesome. It's good for the sport. He's good for the sport. As far as Dak goes, I think he's going to have to not hope for that much because he's nowhere close to that.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And here's what people don't get: it's not that people were comparing Dak to Mahomes, saying, "Oh, just because Mahomes got this, now Dak's waiting." That's the thing. Like Mahomes has set the market. Like, okay, now this is Mahomes level money. Now everybody's gonna fall in line under it, and it's not necessarily people are gonna get Mahomes money because I don't think anybody's gonna get Mahomes money unless they prove, that they're up there and they deserve it. And no quarterback in the league, I think, has done that or is going to do that anytime soon to that extent. But people are going to fall in line under it, and it's not a starting point, but it's something that they can use to kind of just measure like where you fall in. And
right.
and here's the other thing: it's not like that people like we're saying like, oh, like Dak wants more than Russell Wilson. Like, is he better than Russell Wilson? No, but every year that you don't sign a contract, the cap goes up, more money goes in. So these deals and these numbers aren't saying like, oh, this player is better than this player. It's what's available. It's what's available to the cap, and the cap goes up year after year. So just because Dak gets a contract and it might be more money than some of the people that signed before him have got, they're not saying, oh, Dak's necessarily a better quarterback. It's the fact that every year the caps get higher. The salary cap limit is higher. And that's one thing people don't get. But this Mahomes deal has really set the market, and everybody's going to fall behind under it. And then every quarterback that gets signed, they're going to be making more and more money, So Dak's probably going to get a richer contract, and then the next person who signs, the next person who's up, the next good quarterback, they're going to get more money. I mean, and then you're going to see extensions coming because this was an extension for Mahomes. I think he still has two years left. So in total, the next 12 years, he's with Kansas City. But you're also going to start seeing extensions for guys like Lamar Jackson. If he keeps balling out the way he has, he's going to get a really fat contract as well. So, I mean, it's just it all has to do with salary cap and not necessarily what have you done for me. I mean, that factors in also. But, franchise quarterbacks are at a premium. It's not, you don't have to go out there and win a Super Bowl or, be MVP every year. quarterbacks are rare, and it seems like they're becoming more rare by the year. So if you have a quarterback who comes in, has the winning record, has won a playoff game, and just his first 4 or 5 years, that's very telling, you know. And a guy like Dak, like, he deserves a lot of this money, I think, in my eyes, because he's proven to be a franchise quarterback. He hasn't had a losing season. I mean, so people want to argue against that and say that, oh, he's commanding too much money. But the fact of the matter is, any quarterback that comes in and proves that they can carry a franchise at any extent is going to be worth a lot of money.
Right. And I think, Mark, I think the word you use, ceiling, I think that's a perfect example, because I don't see anyone else getting more than Mahomes. Even a guy like Lamar Jackson, I think he'll get a little less. I think this is record. I mean, obviously it's record setting, but I don't think we'll see a contract like this for some time, for a record deal like Mahomes. But you're right. Yeah, Lamar Jackson can come back and say, hey, well, especially, you know, what if Lamar Jackson wins the Super Bowl this year and beats Mahomes in the AFC Championship game? So then does Lamar Jackson get more than Mahomes? You know, it's crazy to think, but, you know, I think this deal is probably the ceiling of what a player can get in pro sports. Because other than that, I think it's outrageous.
And this is just his contract. This isn't like his deals that he has with, like, shoe companies, sports drinks. Like, keep that in mind.
No. Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, Dak is definitely deserving. Yeah, no, Dak's definitely deserving. He's proven that before, you know. You know, and I could care less, you know, what people say. Well, he has this, he has that. You know, so what if he has Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and all those guys? I mean, that's just the spot he was put in. But he's definitely deserving. I think he's in the Carson Wentz, Jared Goff range. That's right below Drew Brees and Brady and obviously Mahomes. So he's right there in the middle tiers. We're just hoping that he can sign at some point.
Yeah, because Mahomes said it. He's up here. Everybody's falling in line, and now everybody's going to start to be sorted out. But Mahomes is the starting point, and everybody's going to fall in behind that. So that's what it's done for the league. It's reset the market.
Right, like I said, you know, Mahomes is the only guy on the planet that can walk into the owner's office with a blank check, and he can fill it out and get what he wants. Other than that, I mean, I don't know who else can go and do that in pro sports right now.
Definitely. So that's going to wrap up our little roundtable discussion, guys. Kevin, Mark, anything we missed, anything we want to throw out there before we wrap up?
Not that I know. I mean, just keep it here. We have more stuff coming at you, guys. At 3:00 and at 5. But yeah, just stay safe out there, everybody. I know it's hit hard out there. I just want everybody to be safe, you know, and keep a good head on you, and, you know, just live life. Be careful, man. But you know, be happy and you know, take care. And most of all, that's all. I just want to stress that. Just be careful out there, guys.
Yeah, we stress that a lot here. We're out covering stuff. We're trying to be as safe as we can too, because we're putting ourselves at risk as well. So we're being careful as well. You should do the same. Stay home, wear a mask, do all the good stuff. Kevin stresses that as well. He's in Michigan, doing the same thing there. He's social distancing. And so, with that said, 3:00, guys, will be the RGV Banditas. That'll be a Mark show at 3:00. Check that out. If you don't know what that's all about, you definitely want to tune into that. At 5:00, we're going to have on West Dakota quarterback and upcoming A&M Kingsville football player Jacob Cavazos. He'll be joining me at 5:00 to wrap up our Wednesday show. So, with that said, Kevin Narro, Mark Molina, Billy Watson, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into our roundtable. Follow us on our social media at realsportslive.com. We got more coming your way. Tune in. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you guys.